I was looking to see if you have something.
You're all set, Nikki. Go ahead.
We're ready to go? All right, I'm going to do a screen share, so let me know if you can see my screen. Let's just start a screen share. And do you see that?
We sure do.
All right, let's get this party started. Let's go for what we're here for. And I could kind of hear a sound in the room when Jennifer said you could be at home and watching this, and I was thinking to myself, darn, and I'm here, I need to be at home. But it really is great. Google Hangouts, if you don't know about them, invest in them or investigate them, because I like them for making learning rewindable. For instance, like a session today, you can go back and rewind if you forgot. Now, what the heck did Nikki say? You can go back and rewind. But let's go ahead and jump into this. School libraries remaining relevant in the digital world. And really, it's not even today, what I'm going to talk about isn't really about digital or anything else, but it's anywhere you are in the library world, no matter what type of school you have, what type of resources you have, is remaining relevant throughout, no matter whether you're going digital or not. And that's just a little bit of stuff about me. I've been around for a little bit. This is my 23rd year, and like Jennifer said, I went to the dark side this year with instructional technology facilitator, but I kind of relate it to being a Marine. You're never an ex-Marine, you're a former Marine, and so I'm a former librarian, but always a librarian. But I am really excited and happy to be here, and I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this sound, but I've got the song Happy should start playing in just a minute if it is going to do what I want it to do, because I am so incredibly happy to be presenting to you today. And this is kind of how I feel. You don't see me up and dancing, but I'm really excited to be up and here today with you all and talking about this. So we're all familiar with marketing our libraries and getting that message out in our libraries through marketing, whether it's signage or bulletin boards we have up, social media, blogging services. But today we're really going to focus on websites and blogs as the two things that we're going to focus on. And also, I think this goes hand in hand with advocating for your library, because a lot of times I hear state library associations and libraries saying, well, we need to do more to advocate. We have to advocate for our libraries because our budgets are being cut, or our librarians are being cut, or we're losing our library aides. And really, you know, when you've been around as long as I have, you can't really advocate for your own library. The powers that be don't listen to our voice. I don't know why, but they don't listen to the ones who are in the trenches who know what they're talking about. So when you're thinking of your library program and what you're doing, it's going to be your students, your parents, your teachers, and your community members that are going to have to advocate for you. They're the ones who are going to have to be up in arms if your budget is cut. They're the ones who are going to have to storm the school board meetings when you lose your library aides, or when they cut librarians in your district, or when they cut services. It's going to have to be those other people in your communities that are up in arms and say, no, we will not stand for this. You cannot cut our libraries. Our libraries and our librarians are too valuable to us. So it's really about making sure that all these other people are on board, and they're going to be the ones that stand up and holler if something happens. So why is this a need right now? Why is this something that's coming up in conversation now about remaining relevant? Well, we're kind of the ones on the chopping block right now. I don't know if you remember, oh geez, I don't even know how long it was, probably 10 years or more ago, when PE programs were completely cut out of the schools, and then we realized we had an obesity problem among children in our schools after that happened. And so then PE got brought back and funded again, and then art and music went through their cycle of being cut because people, the powers that be that control the money, were saying, oh, we don't need art and music, they're not important to education. And then we realized, oh wow, they really are very essential to education. And so after 23 years, you kind of see this cycle coming around, but I've never seen such a vicious cycle towards libraries come around until the last probably decade. The last decade has been pretty severe. I know in Alabama for the last 10 years we've received zero funding for libraries. zero. That means a student who graduates this year will not have had a new library book purchased by the State Department, by funds from the State Department, since they were in the 3rd grade. And that's pretty tragic because most of the libraries in Alabama only receive funding from the State Department. For the last 10 years now, if your principal does not allocate money from the school's budget for the library, you get nothing. And I know there's lots of libraries who have received zero funding for the last 10 years. And really, the librarians are going and shopping yard sales and anything they can do to be able to bring books into their library. And it's pretty pitiful what's happening. And I know it looks kind of blank there on the map for the South, but don't let that fool you. This is an older map, and some of these things are not on the map yet or have not been posted on the map. So we need to be vigilant, too, about posting and marking the things that are going on with libraries. Yes, ma'am.
Are y'all familiar with this map, A Nation Without School Librarians? A couple people are, but Nikki, do you want to say what that is real fast?
This is just a map that details the different ways in which libraries are being affected, whether they're losing librarians, losing aides, losing funding, etc., all across our nation. And it's pretty scary to look at all those dots and know that that's not all of them.
Right, because look at North Carolina, y'all. You would think we are unscathed, right, in the last 5 years or so. I think this was started in 2008, this map, so it's been a little longer than that now. The red, and my understanding is, and I could be wrong, but the red is elimination completely of all library positions, and the blue is elimination of either partial or some. You know what I mean? Like people going from from full-time to half-time, whereas red is the elimination of the positions completely. So even out of date, that's really scary, isn't it? Okay. And Nikki, I'm also just going to throw in here that North Carolina is in the same boat as Alabama, although some of our districts have chosen to still fund libraries. New Hanover County, which is where we are, has not. So go right ahead.
Sad. I'm so sorry that you're in the same boat with us. I wish none of us were in that boat. But that's why what we're going to talk about today is so important, because the world is watching you. The world's watching us to see what we're doing, to see, hey, are you worth the money we're investing in you, or sad to say, not investing in you. And so because the world is watching us, we have to really take a step back and examine our digital footprint. Because, and the reason this is important is because nobody can be in the library with you 24/7. If you've experienced what I've experienced, the teachers always walk in between class changes or the only period that you don't have students, and they walk in and go, oh, it must be so nice to sit in the library all day. It's so quiet in here all the time, and you must get to read a lot. And they say different things like that that make you want to kind of choke them. And so getting our story out there is really the focus of what today is about. It's not so much about websites or anything else, but it's getting our story out there so our students know, our parents know, our teachers know, our administration know, our community members know just how valuable we are, and that yes, we need to be fully funded and fully staffed. And here's why: because these are the things that we do every day to affect kids. So with this in mind, let's jump right on into talking about our digital footprint, because this is how people are going to know across the spectrum, no matter where they are in the world. It's our digital footprint that lets people know who we are and why we're of value to the kids in our school. So thinking back about your digital footprint, one, is the library link on the home page of the school? And I know sometimes that's not up to you if it's there. But then what does that say about how the library is perceived in that school? If it's not on that main page as one of those main links, then maybe you might want to have a conversation about why is it not seen as important enough to be a main link. And then when someone clicks on the library link, what do they actually see when they go there? And then when someone clicks on the library link, what will they see as your connection with students and teachers beyond providing just links to resources, because a lot of libraries, they have a library site or they have a website, but it's really just a portal to links to other sources. So how are we moving beyond that? And then when someone clicks on the library link, what will they see as a library's role in empowering students and teachers? Because that's really what it's about, is empowering our students and our teachers. And our teachers are our students as well. So we're going to do a little, just in our head, a rating of a couple of sites. And we might just pull some out of the air, but a couple of sites of, is this on a scale of stars from 1 star to 5 stars, with 5 stars being the best. So I pick on my friend Andy Clemens, who is an elementary school librarian in Georgia. And I'm going to click onto his school website. So I'm going to take you on live there, and hopefully you're seeing this with me, and you can see that this is Barrow Elementary School, and this is their homepage of their school. And we can see right here on the important school links is the media center. So that's good. This is on the first page of the school. And so now we're going to click in here. And one of the things that I really noticed first when I get onto Andy's page is the fact that this is not his yearbook photo on the page, and that's usually what I see the most when I go out and look at other websites for libraries. It's usually their yearbook photo there of just them. But if you notice, Andy in his pictures is actively engaged with students, and I think that's so important, that you show pictures and images of you actively engaged with students. And if we scroll down, we can see what the vision is, their mission, and their beliefs, but there's nowhere on here that I see the rules of what you cannot do in the library. And I think with you guys having Jennifer there, you already know that's a big no-no. Let's not have all that up and all those don'ts. And he also makes sure that on that main page he has suggestions for his library. How can we make it a better place? Is there something fantastic you want us to tell about the library? So go ahead. So he lets that be open, and he's celebrating things and giving students voice in there. And that's another thing I love about Andy, is he does give students voice. So this might look like a lot of your pages. It's just a very simple page. There's not a whole lot that you can do with it. But Andy has added some other things over here to the left-hand side that I think are important. So, he has his About Me page, which is fine, his catalog and book selection, and that's great. Research tools, and that's awesome because you do need to have those links and tools for your teachers. But he also has his blog attached here, and I think that's super important. So we're just going to click on his blog real quick and go over there. And then again, it took him to this page, and so he's put an outside link to his blog. And I know I was talking with Jennifer before, and she's put an outside link to her Weebly page, and that's kind of how I've gotten around a lot of things too, is I just put an outside link to what I need to use, because maybe what my school system is using to create web pages is just kind of backwards, and I don't want to use that, so I use something that is more user-friendly. And again, here on his blog, you can see it's not about Andy, it's all about his kids, and that's really something I need to do more with. And you can come in and read about all the different things that he's been doing with kids, and you're just going to see throughout this how he's engaged and engaging students in learning within his library. I don't think you're going to see a worksheet at all in his library. So we're going to come back again, and he's got his Media Center Handbook, Pathfinders, but then I love this. He has his student projects, and this one right here is an oral history project that his kids worked on. So you can actually come in and see the different projects that his students have worked on. And let's see, I'm following the links around. Here's the oral history projects. And so what the students did is they went out and interviewed and recorded different people for this, and you can see the different recordings on here on his page. And so I love that the kids were the ones going out and getting the history of their community and interviewing different people, and that he has this highlighted and as part of the page so that the kids have true authentic publication Doesn't have to be a book company that publishes them for it to be authentic publication, but publishing to the world so that it's going to somebody other than just a teacher for a grade that's going to get slapped into a grade book and forgotten about. I love that Andy makes their learning authentic, which is really important to students, that their learning is authentic. So also, I love this. I'm going to show you one more thing that Andy did. He uses Flipgrid, and if you haven't done Flipgrid, it's really great for letting student voice be heard. And this is something he did last year for Black History Month. All his second grade students had to research a famous person for Black History Month and then create a postage stamp for that person, and then write a persuasive paragraph or argument for why their person should be the stamp that is the stamp for the month. And so it looks like here that Langston Hughes won out, but I love that Andy then let the kids explain and talk about their drawing.
We can't hear that, Nikki.
Okay, so that's what I thought, is you couldn't hear that, but you can always go back and I'll send you that link and watch some of these kids. They are too freaking adorable. Then these little second graders are able to do this. He just has a station set up in his library, and they know what to do, and they go up and do this. They also do book reports this way and share book reviews this way and do lots of other things using Flipgrid. So I just love it, and it's super easy to use.
And it's free, right, Nikki?
It's free up to a certain point, but there are some workarounds. There was a Flipgrid rep at EdCamp Atlanta this time, and he on the slide told us a couple of workarounds, so I can tell you that later.
Okay.
Not on air. So what I want you to do for a second now is to think about yourself. And this is a really hard thing to do, is self-reflecting, because it's painful sometimes to self-reflect, but it's also so helpful. And so just thinking about your website, whether you're able to go to it right now or if you can go to it later, when someone clicks on that link, what will they see? When they click on that, what are they going to see beyond providing links? And when someone clicks on your library link, what's your role for empowering students? And so I'm just going to, let's see if I have this on what I want. All right, I didn't want to go there. That's my blog. But let's go to, all right, so the high school I'm at right now is Elkmont High School. And even though I'm not in the library, I still hold to everything I'm telling you about, because I'm in a brand new position that's never existed before. And so I'm kind of needing also to show, hey, this is what I'm doing, so that people can get to know what my position is. And so on here, I'm not looking for the library, but I am looking for what I do, which is DPI website. But I am also looking for library, and there it is, right here. All right. Oh, under intellectual. I like that. I'm just under news and events. So DPI stands for Digital Passport Initiative. And so that takes me out to, and this is a Weebly, and we can see that I have an iConnect Tech Tips newsletter that I put up here each week. I like to do celebrations. But then also, on top of that, is I have a blog here that's not my personal blog. It's a blog that I have for the school. And so again, we can see that at the end of each week, I write a little blog post about all the different things that we're doing at our school with DPI, the Digital Passport Initiative. And we've been focusing a lot on Google Classroom and Khan Academy. So I make sure I talk about the teachers and what they're doing, and look for ways of celebrating what they're doing in the classrooms with technology, because this is a school that up until this year had no technology, and now the students, 3rd and 4th grade, are one-to-one with MacBooks. And so helping to spread the news about what they're doing and how they're using it not only helps me to reflect on what we're doing and to know where we need to go from here, but it helps other people who read it who may be in the same situation I am, where they're like, oh gosh, okay, now we have these computers or these devices. I need some ideas, because believe me, I go trolling all the time on other people's websites going, oh, I need some ideas. What can I do? And so it's that connecting and sharing and learning and growing together that I really like. And I thought this was really cool. We did Skype with a student who's going to be transferring to our school next week. And to make him feel welcome to the class, we set up a Skype session with the class he's currently in, with our class where he's going to be coming next week. And so he was able to meet all the kids in our class, and we were able to ask him questions, and he was able to meet all of his teachers. And I just thought, wow, what a great way to go ahead and introduce a new student into the classroom instead of them just appearing one day and being, well, who's that kid in class? Right? And we couldn't have done this without our technology, so I love that. And then I also make learning rewindable for my teachers as well, because this is all brand new and I'm just one person, so I can't be everywhere all the time. But with rewindable learning using Google Hangouts, just like now, I can do screen shares and I can walk teachers through what to do on the computers with the new technology that they're learning. So even if I'm not there, they can just pull up a recording of me walking them through what to do. And I really love that I've empowered my teachers to be masters of their own learning that way. And there we go. All right, so yeah, and so that is what I found to be really helpful. Even in the library, I did this week in the library for the week, and it really helped me to stop and pause for a moment and reflect on that week. Sometimes I'd get to the end of the week and think, wow, I didn't really do anything at all this week. Oops, wow, that happened. But then once I sat down and started reflecting on Fridays, I'd realize, oh my gosh, I did a ton of stuff. And, you know, we kind of sell ourselves short, and so having that time to reflect is important. So I guess all this is to say the library really isn't about books at all. It's about what we're doing for kids. It's about empowering students to be masters of their own learning, and what is our role in that, and how are we promoting that, and then how are we telling the world how we're doing that? Because if we don't speak up and we don't tell anybody, then everybody thinks we're sitting in the library eating bonbons and reading books in a nice quiet space, and we know that's not true. But if we don't speak up, nobody will ever know our story. So with that said, where do we start? Well, some of us are completely hogtied and are very restricted to what we're able to do. Our schools districts have set up some very tight parameters of what we can do, what we can put on our websites, where we can go. But I'm always one of those workaround people, and if I think it's best for kids, I'm going to try it and see how long I can get away with it. So I would encourage you, the first and most important thing is to get connected. I cannot even begin to tell you how important this is, because it's literally a life-changing experience for me, getting connected, because change is so hard. And a lot of us, you know, I came in 23 years ago when we were still, using Molly, which was the DOS version of a card catalog on the computer, and all the way up to Destiny, which I was using last year. And I would not have been able to do it if it weren't for connecting with others. But change is always easier when you connect and work with others, because let's face it, it's just one little brain working here, and if you can have 1,000 little brains working together, you're going to have so many more ideas, and you're going to look so much more awesome because of it. So make sure that find a place where you can get in touch with like-minded individuals and colleagues. And that would be your TL community. Now, I know there's other places out there where we can connect, like the ISTE Library Network, but I just am in love with the teacher librarian community. So I hope you've all heard of the teacher librarian community. If not, go ahead and just know that every Monday night, at least the first 3 Mondays of every single month, you just need to hunker down in your pajamas and get ready to be a part of the learning fun with us for an hour each Monday night. The first Monday of each month is the TL Virtual Cafe, which is an amazing webinar series with great librarians like Gwyneth Jones and Tiffany Whitehead and Sherry Gick and Matthew Winter, and of course our own Jennifer Lagarde, and lots of other amazing librarians from all over the country sharing what they've learned with the rest of us. And guys, that's really how we learn, is by sharing and connecting with others. That's how kids learn too. And so we need to emulate that and be the example for our teachers and our students of how we continue our learning, even if it's not a district-sponsored PD that we've been forced to go and attend. The second Monday of each month is for those of you who really love Twitter, or even those of you who are trying to learn Twitter and the magic of Twitter. Because once you get Twitter and you really, that light bulb moment goes off, it becomes really addictive. But the second Monday of each month at 7 p.m. Central or 8 p.m. Eastern Time is the hashtag TL Chat. And that's where we vote on a topic of conversation each month. And so for that 1 hour, we simply talk and share information and resources about that one topic of conversation. But you can always use that hashtag TLChat 24/7 to connect with other teacher librarians around the country. And this, again, is where I find some of my very best ideas, is librarians sharing with that hashtag TLChat, and I'll look and they'll say something about, found this great new website, or found this great new resource, or did you read this book yet? I'm like, no, I haven't. This is awesome. And so I'm constantly finding so many great things on Twitter. And then we've begun our second season of TL News Night, which is kind of an interesting twist on a webinar, because it's actually a live news type broadcast, kind of like The View or The Talk, where for 1 hour we have a different school library association on with us every month, and we discuss a hot topic in libraries. This past month we had the Indiana Library Association on, and they talked about the power of networking, which is connecting with your community, because networking is just so important. So please be sure to tune in for some of those. And again, everything is archived, so if you've missed any of those, you can always go back and catch what you missed, which is what I love also about the TL community, because they make learning rewindable. Then here's our lovely Gwyneth Jones, the daring librarian, who I just fangirl all the time, like I do with Jennifer Lagarde as well. I'm a horrible fangirl. But blog, blog, blog. And I know you're saying, oh my gosh, blog, I don't even have time to put books on the shelves. When am I ever going to have time to blog? And you know, when I first started blogging, I thought the same thing. I thought several things, matter of fact. It was Shel Terrell with her 30 Goals Teacher Challenge that got me started on blogging, because one of the Teacher 30 Goals Challenge was to blog. And I thought, oh, geez, who's going to want to read what I write? Number one, I don't write very well. I'm not a writer. That's not my skill. Number two, I don't have time to blog. And number three, what the heck am I going to say? Now, you know, it's not going to be interesting, and how am I going to find topics to blog about? And really, it's not about any of that. It's not about being a fantastic writer. It's not about if anybody but you ever, ever, ever reads that blog at all. It has nothing to do with that, and it's not coming up with great topics that everybody's going to flock to, and you're going to be this Nobel Prize winning author. It has nothing to do with that at all. It's actually learning from your experiences, and you can't really learn from your experiences if you don't stop, look back, and reflect on those experiences. And blogging for me has been the best way to do that. Question?
No, we're good.
Okay. I'm not going to show this video because you can't hear the sound, but if you've never watched this video, I would really encourage you to do it, because it's one of those that just kind of made the message about blogging hit home for me. Jennifer, have you ever watched this video, Obvious to You, Amazing to Others?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's really amazing. It goes into talking about how most people undervalue or underestimate the value of their own ideas, and that even famous musicians and artists and authors, you know, like John Coltrane and you know, the Rolling Stones, whatever, they look at a piece of music or work that they've created and think, oh, that's not even very good, and it turns out to be like their hit song of their entire career. But to them, they thought, oh, it's nothing very special. And so what it says is that most of us don't think that our ideas are very special, that, oh, geez, this is nothing special, it's very obvious. But then somebody else looks at that idea that you've shared selflessly. You shared that idea, and somebody else looks at it and go, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is brilliant. I would have never thought of this if you hadn't shared it. And so that's what I love about blogging, is because it gives you time to reflect, but it also helps others to learn, because we're all in this vacuum in the library where we're the only somebody in there. And how often do we ever get to connect and communicate with other librarians, especially if we're in the high school, because there's even fewer of us in the high school level. And so we're dying for ideas, and we're looking for ideas and for connections. And so blogging helps you to be able to connect and learn with others. So let's talk about getting connected as well, because not only do we want to connect with others, but we want to connect our students with others as well. So collaborative activities. We want to make sure that students are collaborating not only with each other inside of our schools, but then we want to kick it up a notch. Once they get used to collaborating with others within the school, then we want to connect them with other schools. So I'm going to click on this. We're going to connect them with other schools. This is an example using VoiceThread that my friend Julie D. Ramsey did, and actually it was a group project that between all these different schools, a school in Alabama, a school in Hawaii, Arizona, Indiana, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and Maine. All these schools with 4th grade students, these teachers all got together and planned a unit together. And then all the students work together. And now get this, because this really blows some teachers' minds. So instead of putting kids in groups, like groups of 4 within your own classroom, they were in groups with 1 kid from each state. And then the teacher had a Google Hangout set up, and she had a schedule set up. All the teachers had a schedule set up. And so at such and such time, group 1 would go to the Google Hangout. They would call each other on the Google Hangout, where they would see each other and be able to talk to each other and work on their project together. And then they put it all together in this VoiceThread. So they were talking about different, exploring their heritage. So each student was sharing something from their state. And so this is the Vulcan from Birmingham. And if we could hear, there's a student here telling about the Vulcan and how it's part of the heritage in Birmingham. And if we were to keep going through this voice thread, we would see stuff from each one of those states and students explaining about this. But it was a project that the students worked on collaboratively with other students from all those different states. So I thought that was pretty awesome, and that is truly global learning and global connections with the students. Then Skyping with an author. Dot Day just came and went. Which I know a lot of people Skyped and connected for Dot Day, either with other libraries or with authors. But then don't forget that there are authors who Skype with classes, and a lot of these authors do it completely free for maybe 10 minutes or so. And the kids are so excited when you have an author in, and they're like, oh, you know her? And I've got this picture of Ivan the gorilla over here from the Atlanta Zoo. You can do Google Hangouts or Skype with experts in different areas, so don't think it just has to happen in the library. I've gone into classrooms with my computer and done Google Hangouts to bring experts into the classroom, into different subject areas of the classroom. So look for those opportunities also to connect your teachers to a broader global world and connecting those students as well. So think about Google Hangouts with experts. Multi-school book clubs. I know that Jane Lofton out in California, along with Joyce Valenza, are all working on the Somewhat Virtual Book Club. And I know sometimes it's hard to get a book club started at our individual schools, but you might be able to connect those students with the Somewhat Virtual Book Club, and they'll be able to connect with students from all over the world that are reading the same book that they're reading, where they can have some authentic conversations about what's going on. So again, we have that word authentic coming in. So it's authentic learning for an authentic audience. So again, research, and this takes you back to Andy's Flipgrid, what he did. And so the kids weren't just researching because, heck, that's the skill we have to teach, and we're just going to do it completely out of context and with no meaning, in which you would leave the library, your paper is going to go in the garbage. But we're actually connecting with a real audience, we're doing it for a purpose beyond a grade, and we're getting feedback. Because one thing what Andy did is he sent out what the kids had done, the research they had done, and their flip grids, and then he asked an authentic audience, his PLN, to vote on the flip grids that they liked best. And so the kids actually are voted on their writing and their ability to persuade an audience. So again, authentic audience and bringing students to an authentic audience. And then, of course, get students blogging, because if that's good for us to reflect on our learning, wouldn't blogging be good for students to use as a reflection tool as well? And I found this and I thought, wow, this really, really says it, because in Alabama, we're not just doing Common Core. We've changed Common Core to be college and career readiness standards. And so our push always with Common Core is this going to get students college and career ready? And if you look at this quote, it says, today's employers say the capacity to collaborate to solve problems is going to be even more important for tomorrow's workers than content knowledge. And that's true if you really think about it, because we are training students for jobs that don't even exist yet. So we could teach them all the content in the world, all the content knowledge in the world, but that's not going to make a difference if by the time they get out into the world, none of that content knowledge really applies anymore, because there's brand new job avenues in the works that we haven't even dreamed of yet. Think about 10 years ago what jobs exist now that didn't even exist back then. So the ability to come together, collaborate, and be problem solvers is what the workforce is actually looking for. And so giving students opportunities to collaborate and work together with others outside of their own little environment within that school is going to be super important. All right, maker spaces. This is a big topic in libraries now. And maker spaces really, I think, dream big. It can be a place where you create, build, and craft. It can be absolutely anything. Arts and craft, 3D printing, video production, audio recording, electronics, computers, painting, writing, building, as far as you can dream. But here's the key to this, and I said this when I was talking to Alyssa last week, is this needs to be free-range maker spaces. What I've seen a lot of people do is kill the maker spaces by saying, okay, on Wednesdays from 1 until 1:30, we're going to make bracelets and arts and crafts, and here's exactly how you're going to make the bracelet, and it must look just like this, and here's all the materials I've already cut and made exactly for you so that all of our bracelets look exactly the same. Well, that's killing the maker spaces. So let's be free-range maker spaces where kids can come in anytime during the day and explore and tinker and say, okay, what if I do this, what will it look like? Or what if I do this, what will happen? And give them that ability to sit there and problem solve and create and let those little synapses in their brain start firing. And it doesn't always have to be something from a worksheet that has to be done a certain way. One thing I've seen with the kids with the one-to-one in our school is they're afraid to think for themselves, and that's pretty sad, to only get to 3rd and 4th grade and be afraid to think for yourself. They are very hesitant to click on anything or do anything unless they know that they're doing exactly what the teacher wants them to do. But it's about that. It's about thinking and doing and looking and solving for yourself. And that's going to have to be, that's one of the uphill battles that I think in one-to-one schools we're going to have, is building up that confidence in kids to the fact that they can think for themselves and they don't always have to do that cookie cutter thing that we've been expecting them to do in school so far. So breaking out of that cookie cutter mold. Robotics is another cool thing that can go right along into your maker spaces, and it's so much fun. And coding and programming, because it brings together creative thinking and teamwork and collaboration and all those things, and I just absolutely love it. Here's a couple robotics companies that you might look into. Hummingbird Robotics is coming out with a brand new version that's supposed to be like 10 times better than this one, if I understand correctly, in December. So look for that coming out. Spiro, which is really just adorable and cute and fun, and Little Bits is another one as well. So look into that, and also Khan Academy for free has some coding on there as well. And then gamification, making learning fun. We've got Jennifer's Level Up Book Club, Matthew Winters, mathematics with a we. Heck, if I knew I could have learned math with a we, I might actually know something about math. But I don't know math, but I'm thinking about going back and seeing what Matthew has to say about the we and seeing how I can learn. Plus, doing Khan Academy. I've been introducing Khan Academy to my school the last 20 days of school, and the kids are absolutely loving it. I had the kids come up to me all the time saying, like I had a kid today say, I got 6,000 points this morning on Khan Academy, and it wasn't because they were doing it in class. They're doing it on their own because they love it so much and they're learning math. And how wonderful is that? Because it's gamification. Make it into a game and they'll learn it. Because it really is a win. You can even make discipline a game. Class Dojo, if you're familiar with that, is kind of game-based discipline, and it's really cool. It keeps kids informed of how they're doing. Socrative is a great formative assessment, and it's kind of game-ish. And then Brainscape, and there's also Kahoots, which I didn't put in here. So keep looking for those of ways you can bring games and learning together into one. Because remember, guys and girls and my friends, it's not about books. I know we want to say it's about books, but it's not. It's about empowering students to be masters of their own learning. And I wish the sound would work for this. So, okay, in your heads, I want you to think of the Star Trek theme. All right, at the beginning of Star Trek is Mr. Spock and Captain Kirk. Think of that theme playing in your head as I read this to you, because this is your Learning Commons Challenge. Libraries, a Learning Commons. This is the challenge for the new Hanover County School librarians. Its school year mission to establish positive school interactions, seek out student empowering activities, and new professional collaborations. La, da, da, da. And that was my bad attempt at music there. But now we've got time left over for questions. I know I rushed through a lot of things there. So I know there's probably a good amount of questions, comments, because, hey, we've all been in this boat together of being in a library and being restricted, and what do we do and how do we do it and where do we start. So let's hear your questions. Jennifer?
Do you guys have questions for Nikki? I have a couple of questions that I'll ask if you're all right with that, okay?
Yeah, questions, comments, tomato throwing, whatever you want to do.
I think you're going to do Star Wars at the end. You have to dress like Uhura next time, like you have to wear your Star Trek gear. But here's my question. You mentioned Weebly as a source for creating web pages outside of your district template. We are restricted to Google Sites here, and not only are we restricted to Google Sites, but we're restricted to a special theme for our school. I mean, it's very locked down. So do you know of other web creators besides Weebly that you would recommend? I love Weebly. I love it. I used it. That's what I use for our resource page, and for the New Hanover High School Library page, I've used Weebly, and I just link to it. If you go to my Google site, it says click here to go to the library website, and you click there and it takes me to the Weebly page. So I'm using the Google site to get them to my real page. That's how I'm using it, okay? But I love Weebly, but I just wondered if you knew of any others in case somebody didn't like Weebly.
Right, and that's what Andy Plemons actually does too. If you noticed on his site, he had what his school had for the site, and then he had that link out to his site. So I think that's what a lot of us who are just like, okay, we're going to fit what the school district's restricting us to, but we're going to find that little wiggle room that we can. And I think as long as you're being authentic and being thoughtful about what you put on your site, that it should not cause an issue. Weebly really is the best site, and you know, I love all things Google, you know that, but man, Google Sites is awful. That's something they really need to fix. It's very hard, whereas Weebly is simply a click and drag. I've tried other sites like Wix and, oh gosh, I don't know. I try them as they come along, but really I haven't found anything easier than Weebly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Joanna, you use Blogger, don't you, for some of your site?
I use Blogger.
Yeah. LibGuides? Gotcha, okay. Yes, all right. And I've used Wix also, that she mentioned, and I actually have a love affair with Wix. I mean, I think the product is so beautiful, but it is hard. Like Wix.com, but you have to be prepared to make a time investment because it requires some time and also just a little bit of skill in terms of web development, some coding, that kind of thing. But I'm in love with it. Like, I love the way it looks. But if you're talking about easy and still looking really good, because like I think our website, our New Hanover County School, our library website, their resource page, I think that looks pretty good. That's Weebly. And so Weebly is real easy. Okay, so that's my, anything else you want to add to that, Nikki?
Well, I know that when I'm looking at technologies, I try to always say, could my most technophobic teacher handle this? And if my most technophobic teacher or my most non-technology-based teacher handle it, then I feel it's good. I don't want to overburden my teachers or overwhelm my teachers, because part of my job, I think, is to help relieve some of that burden that's on them, because they are so overstressed with testing and grading and all sorts of other things, lesson planning, that anything I can do to help lighten their load is, I believe, really important in, again, advocating for your library. And so what can I do that's going to make their life easier? If they have to do a web page, what can I show them to help make their life easier in that process?
Yes. No. All right, so Nikki, I'll let you address this after I do, but she's asking about maker spaces in an elementary school library. Andy Plemons is an excellent example of somebody who's doing maker spaces, and he's actually going to do a session for us, a lab with librarians. He's the one, Nikki showed you his, he's going to do one for us later in the year, and I've asked him if he would talk about his maker space during that time. But he's on a fixed schedule rotation, so he makes it work there. But it's just all about giving kids an opportunity during the time that they're with you, whether that's in a fixed schedule or a flex schedule, to build and create and that kind of thing. So at a middle and high school level, you can surely do things before, after school, during lunch, during free time. High school kids have a little more free time than others, so they can come in. But even in a fixed schedule, when they come to you, then it's about planning lessons that gives them some time to do some of that building and creating and that kind of thing. So, Nikki, do you want to add anything to that?
Right. I agree with what you said. With the middle and high school, there's a little more ease of flow there. But Andy is really just an expert at it. When I was in an elementary school library, I set up centers, and so the kids could rotate to centers each time. I was on a fixed schedule. And so one of those centers, I always had it where it was tinkering or playing or something that was maker spaces before maker spaces was a term, I guess, but I always had a place where they could play.
Or country before country was cool, right? Wow. If you wanted to know how much time you would allot in a fixed schedule, how much time would you give them at a station like that?
Well, that all depends on your school. I had over 800 kids and just me, and I had to rotate them through every week, so I was on 30 minutes with each class. So they would actually come in, immediately go to their center, and they knew that each week they would rotate to a different center. While they were at their center, the library helper center, which I started in second grade, the students would check the books in, check the books out, shelve the books. That would give me a chance to work with the kids on shelving the books so that I'm not teaching Dewey Decimal and how to shelve books and the importance of shelving books in isolation on a worksheet. Draw a line to where the book goes on the shelf. You know those worksheets? Right? So it was authentic learning, and then they were like, oh, that's why we put the book there, because then we can find it when we need it again. Yes, so they get it that way. And so once my library helpers had finished checking in all the books, putting the books on the shelves, it was probably like 10 minutes. I'd let the centers quietly go one at a time to go find books. They'd know as soon as they found their book, they put it under their chair, come back and keep working at their center. Once everybody had a book under their chair, we'd start calling centers up one by one to check out their book. So throughout this whole time, they're working in their centers. And then the last 10 to 5 minutes of class would be story time. I'd pick a book that they had chosen, not a book that I had chosen, to read for story time. And so that also made them stop and think about what they were choosing a little more carefully instead of just grabbing a book off the shelf, because then it was, I wonder if Miss Robertson's going to pick my story to read today. That's what I did.
How many centers did you have, Nikki? How many centers would you have at that?
I had 6 centers for each grade level, K through 6. And I had different...
Would you describe them in any way? If you had one maker center, you had one library helper center, what were some of the other ones?
You know how long ago it was I was in an elementary library?
Any come to mind? You don't have to, like, it's not a test.
I would have maker spaces. I had a reading center where there was a book on tape and an activity for them to do, whether it was something for them to make that went along with the book while they were listening to it, a takeaway for them to have. I had a SAT center where they would work on skills, but I always made sure that it was done in a more fun way, a gamification type way for working on whether it's math skills or science skills. And I tried to make sure that that matched what they were doing in class so that I was reinforcing what they were doing in class. Geez, what else did I do? There was always a game center, because even if it's chutes and ladders, they're learning how to work together cooperatively, how to follow rules. There's really important things that can be learned during games. And so it's not just a game. So like around Christmas time, I teach them how to play dreidel, and they would make a dreidel to take away with them. We'd make dreidels, and they'd learn how to play dreidel, and we'd read a book about Hanukkah and different things like that. So.
Let me just interrupt and say that you guys know Jessica Moore, where she was here, but she has done lots of PD on the stations in her school library. She knows a lot about, she has a master at stations in the elementary school library. So y'all, that's what, yeah, so, and Gretchen over here too has gotten on the center bandwagon. So we have resources here in our district too. And how, we all should be sharing those lessons, you know, especially those of you who were on that fixed schedule. You know, you get real tempted, I'm sure, to just do the same thing year after year, because golly, who has time to plan for new stuff every single year when you're on that fixed schedule? Well, let's see what some of your other folks are doing. Maybe you can infuse some of their stuff.
It saved my life. With over 800 kids and no A, it really saved my life to be able to put those kids to work and have them be little aides for me. And then having the kids in the centers allowed me to be a facilitator and a guide on the side rather than teaching them a lesson. By God, you know, they're in class all day, being talked to and told what to do and write this on that worksheet and do this and do that. I wanted them to have more freedom in the library, for it to be a breathing place for them to go ahead and, even though they were doing something a little more relaxed, but still under control, and with me being able to float around from center to center, it really did save my life as an elementary school librarian.
Sure. Barbara, did you have a question?
I was wondering what you think about having library students for the other things if you had library students.
If you had to write your standards, would you, I think the question is, would you be able to incorporate centers? Couldn't you have a different I can statement at every center?
You could.
So, yeah. So, well, to me, I would print out, if it were me, I would at the beginning of the year print out maybe my first 9 weeks I can statements, laminate them, and then just be moving them from center to center, so I don't have to every day be trying to get those posted. You know what I'm saying? So that way I could just plug it in. But I'd be thinking about that for my first 9 weeks or first whatever amount of time. And then when you pack up all the materials for the centers, pack up the I can statements too, so that the next time you use them, you just put them out with the I can statements as well. Okay. Any other questions or comments, y'all? Okay, Nikki, thank you so much.
Yay, thank you all for being here.
Thank you. We
Have
really
a great
appreciate
afternoon.
it.
And I'll send you a link to the presentation, so if y'all want to go in and explore some of those links in Andy's site and all that, you'll be able to have that.
That'd be great. Thank you. I love you, Nikki. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you too. Bye, y'all.